Hello, friends. In ancient Athens, the lives of enslaved women were marked by suffering, silence, and harsh punishments that were designed to strip them of both dignity and humanity. Unlike Athenian citizens, who had the right to trial and limited protections under the law, enslaved women were considered property, objects that could be beaten, tortured, or even killed without legal repercussions. Their punishments were not simply about discipline, but about reinforcing absolute control, ensuring obedience, and instilling fear. Whipping was the most common form of punishment, often carried out in public to humiliate the enslaved woman before others. Unlike free women who were shielded by modesty, enslaved women's suffering was deliberately made visible. They could be stripped naked, tied, and flogged as both a warning and entertainment for onlookers. Branding was another brutal practice. Hot irons seared into the skin to leave permanent marks of ownership, reducing women to living property tagged, like livestock. Sexual violence was a silent but pervasive punishment. Enslaved women had no authority over their bodies, and refusal to comply with a master's demands often brought savage retribution. They could be beaten, starved, or sold to brothels as a form of degradation. Some were forced into public humiliation. Rituals paraded through the streets or subjected to mocking punishments that blurred the line between discipline and spectacle. Torture was used not just for punishment, but for extracting information. Because enslaved people's testimony was not admissible in court unless obtained through torture, enslaved women were subjected to horrific interrogations, burning, beating, or crushing, until they confessed what their masters wanted to hear. Their bodies became instruments of law, bearing the scars of a justice system designed to exclude them. Even death could be turned into a punishment. An enslaved woman who resisted, attempted escape, or was accused of theft or betrayal could be executed brutally, stoned, beaten to death, or thrown into pits. These killings were often symbolic, a way for masters to assert dominance and deter others from rebellion. What makes these punishments especially tragic is how little voice enslaved women had in history. Their pain was routine, rarely recorded, and almost never questioned. To the Athenians, they were necessary tools of the household, easily replaced and swiftly silenced. Yet beneath the brutality lay resilience. Many resisted in subtle ways, from small acts of defiance to escape attempts, reminding us that even in the darkest corners of history, the human will to survive could not be extinguished. Enslaved women in ancient Athens endured a world where their existence was defined not by their humanity, but by the control others exerted over them. Their punishments reflected the cruelty of a society that placed freedom and democracy on a pedestal, while simultaneously denying it to the most vulnerable. Masters viewed punishment as a tool of power, not justice. Enslaved women could be punished for the smallest infractions, dropping a household item, speaking out of turn, failing to serve food quickly, or even displaying reluctance in carrying out degrading orders. Each mistake was an opportunity for the master to reinforce dominance. The punishments were not random, but systematic, designed to remind enslaved women that they had no identity outside of servitude. One particularly harsh punishment was confinement in tiny, dark spaces. Some were locked in storage rooms or chained in basements for days without food or water, left to suffer in silence. Others were fitted with iron collars or shackles to restrict movement, ensuring both pain and humiliation. These devices served as constant reminders of their lack of autonomy, marking them as property wherever they went. Public shaming was another form of cruelty. An enslaved woman might be forced to perform degrading tasks in front of others, or paraded in marketplaces with signs around her neck declaring her alleged offenses. These acts not only punished the woman but also warned others against disobedience. The spectacle of humiliation reinforced the hierarchy of power between citizens and slaves, men and women. Religious practices could even be twisted into punishment. Enslaved women might be forced into temple service as a form of penalty where their bodies were exploited under the guise of sacred duty. They had no say in whether they served as attendants, workers, or in darker cases, as objects of ritualized sexual exploitation. Escape attempts carried the most severe punishments. If caught, an enslaved woman could be branded with symbols of betrayal, mutilated to prevent further escape, or executed as an example to others. Masters sometimes cut off hair, ears, or noses as permanent disfigurement, punishments meant to mark rebellion on the body itself. The psychological punishments were just as devastating. Enslaved women were constantly reminded that their children, if born, were not theirs to keep. A master could sell her child at will, using motherhood as a weapon to control her behavior. The thread of separation, mother from child, sister from sister, hung over enslaved women like an invisible chain, ensuring obedience without the need for constant physical violence. Despite the brutality, enslaved women were not entirely broken. Some resisted through small, quiet acts, working slowly, hiding food, or secretly teaching others survival skills. Others formed bonds with fellow slaves, creating networks of comfort and resistance in the shadows of oppression. These moments of defiance, though dangerous, show that enslaved women in Athens were more than victims. They were survivors who fought, in whatever ways they could, to preserve their humanity in a society determined to erase it.